Okay, let's unpack this. Planning a wedding, it's a huge undertaking, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Massive.
But then you add in different nationalities, different legal systems, maybe you're listening and you have a Filipina partner, you might already know things can get, well, complicated, fast.
Yeah, you're talking about extra layers of bureaucracy, unexpected hurdles. It can really, dampen the excitement a bit.
Which brings us to something really interesting we've been looking into. Getting married in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Right, maybe not the first place that springs to mind for a wedding destination.
Exactly, but the sources we dug into suggest it's actually a surprisingly streamlined option, especially for international couples, specifically where one partner is from the Philippines.
Okay, and what sort of sources are we talking about here?
We've looked at info from wedding agencies that operate there, official Hong Kong government resources, and even some first-hand accounts from people sharing their experiences on forums.
And what's the general vibe? What are they saying?
Consistently.
Yeah.
That Hong Kong has a notably efficient process, significantly less red tape compared to many other places.
Less red tape sounds good.
Yeah.
Compared to where, for instance?
Well, sources like one agency called DreamWedding in Hong Kong and some forum posts contrast it pretty sharply with the procedures in, say, Germany, or even in the Philippines itself.
Interesting. So the mission for this deep dive then is what?
Is to figure out why. Why could Hong Kong be such a smart, efficient choice for couples in this exact situation? Let's get into the details of what might make it so much simpler.
All right, sounds good. Where do we start? Maybe the entry requirements, getting there.
Good starting point. Yeah, one immediate plus that jumps out is just how easy it is for many people to enter Hong Kong,
Okay.
especially for Filipino citizens. Multiple sources confirm they can enter Hong Kong visa-free for stays under 14 days.
14 days. And that's usually enough time.
Often, yeah. More than enough to handle the wedding logistics. And it's not just Filipinos either.
Oh?
No, one source mentioned over 170 nationalities get visa-free entry for tourism. So, the key takeaway here for you listening might be that first big hurdle, the visa application process.
Which can be stressful and long.
Exactly. Hong Kong often just eliminates it right off the bat for many couples.
That's a significant advantage. Bypassing that initial stage simplifies things immediately, doesn't it?
Definitely. So, okay, you've arrived in Hong Kong. What about the paperwork for the marriage itself?
Right, the documents. This is another area where it seems, well, simpler.
How so?
The list of required documents is relatively short, based on what we've seen. Primarily, you're looking at passports, valid passports, of course.
Okay, passports. What else?
And if it applies to you, proof that any previous marriages have ended. So like a final divorce decree or a death certificate of a former spouse.
Standard stuff. But what about that other document? The one proving you're free to marry?
Ah, you mean the certificate of no impediment? Or Sino Mar, as it's often known for Filipinos.
Yeah, that one. Is that needed?
This is pretty significant. Generally, no. It's not required in Hong Kong.
Really? Because that can be a major hassle elsewhere, right?
Absolutely. Several sources explicitly state this. Think about it. Getting that certificate often means dealing with your home country's embassy or government offices, waiting periods, more paperwork.
So Hong Kong just cuts that out.
It seems so, yes. It saves a lot of time and, frankly, potential headaches. Compared to the UK or the Philippines, this makes the process much more straightforward, according to our sources.
Wow. Okay, that's a big one. Anything else on requirements? Age?
Oh, right. Good point. Both partners need to be at least 16. And if you're under 21, you'll need parental consent. Standard legal stuff.
But for most adult couples, not an issue.
Right.
So fewer visa worries, less complex paperwork. That's already sounding pretty good.
It definitely sets a positive tone.
Yeah.
Now, what about the actual process? How fast is it? How bureaucratic?
This is where it gets really interesting talking about efficiency. Some agencies, like that DreamWedding in Hong Kong one we mentioned, they really push the idea of a quick turnaround. They claim you can potentially book a wedding within weeks and get everything done, including the official bits, in maybe just a week on the ground.
A week? The whole thing?
That's the claim. And other sources also hint at a fast process.
But is that always the reality? What about actual people's experiences?
That's a crucial point. We found a forum post updated for 2024 where someone shared their experience from, looks like early 2025.
Okay.
And they mentioned waiting about 2 months just to get their wedding date confirmed by the Hong Kong Immigration Office.
2 months? That's quite different from a week.
It is, and they only got the final confirmation around 20 days before the actual ceremony date.
So a potential mismatch between agency promises and official timelines.
Possibly? Or maybe. Well, the forum user actually wondered if using an agency helps speed things up somehow.
Ah, maybe the agencies have ways to navigate the system faster, establish contacts or processes.
Could be. That agency, DreamWedding, does talk about two main ways to apply. An overseas application, which involves getting documents notarized back home, and a personal application, where one partner goes to Hong Kong in person to file the initial notice. They suggest that second way might be quicker.
Right, the personal application. So practically, what's the difference for you, the listener?
The overseas one means more paperwork up front, getting things notarized, sending them internationally. The personal one means a trip to Hong Kong earlier for one person, but potentially less hassle with notarization and couriers. Might save time.
Makes sense. But either way, there's still steps everyone has to follow.
Oh yeah. You have to file something called the Notice of Intended Marriage. That's step one.
Okay, the notice.
Then, potentially notarization if you go the overseas route. Submit everything to the marriage registry. Then, importantly, you both need to arrive in Hong Kong a couple of business days before the ceremony
Why before?
to present your original documents in person, passports, etc. Then you have the ceremony itself.
And after the I-dos.
Then you'll likely want to apply for an apostille for your marriage certificate.
All right, the apostille, to make it officially recognized internationally.
Exactly. So those are the general steps.
What about costs? Any idea on the fees?
Yep, the sources mention specific figures. Filing that notice of intended marriage costs HKD 305.
Okay, 305 Hong Kong dollars.
And the actual ceremony at the registry, that's HKD 715 for a weekday or Saturday morning slot.
Reasonable.
But it jumps up to HKD 1,935 if you want a Sunday ceremony.
Ah, okay, good to know. So maybe some waiting time variation, but the steps themselves seem manageable.
Pretty straightforward, yeah. Especially compared to multi-stage processes elsewhere.
And once it's all done, that Hong Kong marriage certificate, it holds up internationally.
Yes, that's another major plus highlighted everywhere. Hong Kong marriage certificates are widely recognized globally.
That's crucial.
You just need that apostille we mentioned. The Hong Kong High Court handles that, and it gives the certificate legal standing in countries that are part of the Hague Convention, which is most countries people are likely dealing with.
And how long does getting the apostille take? More waiting?
Actually, no. That part seems super efficient. The official judiciary website says typical processing is just 2 working days.
2 days. Wow. That's fast.
It really adds to the whole convenience factor, doesn't it?
Definitely. So you get married, get the apostille quickly, and you have an internationally recognized document. What about registering it back home, say, in Germany?
One source mentioned that specific example. It said you don't have to register it in Germany for it to be valid, but doing so might bring some, tax benefits later on.
Okay, optional, but potentially useful.
And things like name changes. That's usually handled later through your local registry office back home.
Right, and having this recognized certificate, that helps with visas, like bringing your spouse over.
Yes, that's explicitly mentioned.
Yeah.
It paves the way for applying for family reunion visas.
Right.
Makes that process much smoother. So, yeah, the legal recognition aspect is solid.
Okay, now, you mentioned agencies a couple times, like DreamWedding in Hong Kong. What role do they play in all this?
Well, they basically position themselves as guides through the whole process. They talk about helping couples choose the right application path overseas or personal,
Okay.
assisting with getting all the documents prepared correctly, handling the communication with the registry office in Hong Kong.
So, kind of holding your hand through the bureaucracy.
Pretty much. They even mention providing the 2 legal witnesses needed for the ceremony if the couple doesn't have anyone in Hong Kong.
Witnesses are required.
Yes, 2 are needed, so they can cover that. What's interesting is their claim about knowing the system.
How so?
They say they're familiar with potential bureaucratic tripwires, things that could cause delays and know how to avoid them.
Which might explain that forum user's suspicion about agencies being faster.
Exactly. It could be they just know how to navigate the paperwork and processes more smoothly than someone doing it alone for the first time.
Do they mention costs for their services?
Yeah, the DreamWedding site lists packages for both the overseas and personal application routes at a similar price point, around EUR 699.
Okay, so close to 700 euros for their assistance.
Seems like it. And then they offer add-ons too, the wedding stuff, bridal bouquets, hair and makeup, photographers, if you want those arranged.
Right, the extra bells and whistles.
No, just to be clear, while we're using this agency as an example, because it came up in the sources, this isn't like an ad or an official endorsement.
Understood. It's just illustrating the type of service available.
Precisely. But the services they describe seem designed to tackle exactly the kinds of hurdles an international couple might face doing this abroad. The legal stuff, the paperwork, the logistics.
Yeah, it makes sense that such services exist to smooth the path. Okay, so as we kind of pull this together, what are the key things someone listening should really keep in mind? Any catches?
Well, first, that forum user's experience is a good heads up. While agencies might talk speed, official government processing times can vary. It's probably wise to factor in some potential waiting time for confirmation.
Especially maybe post-pandemic, things might still have backlogs in some offices. Good point. Be realistic about timelines.
And second, don't forget the practicalities. You both need to travel to Hong Kong.
Right.
You need to factor in travel time and cost, and you absolutely have to be physically present for the ceremony itself. No remote weddings here.
Essential point. Can't phone it in.
And one final important note, based on the sources. Same-sex marriage is currently not legally recognized in Hong Kong. That's a key limitation.
Okay, noted. So, to recap the potential upsides for, say, a foreigner marrying a Filipina partner.
It looks like Hong Kong offers a genuinely streamlined process compared to many alternatives. Fewer required documents is a big one.
Especially skipping that certificate of no impediment.
Exactly. Plus the visa-free entry for Filipinos and many others. And you get an internationally recognized marriage certificate with a fast apostille process.
And while the official timeline might have some wiggle room, agencies exist that claim they can help expedite things if speed and convenience are top priorities.
Right. So maybe here's the final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Considering all this, the relative ease, the potentially faster track, how might marrying in Hong Kong, compared to the hoops you might have to jump through elsewhere, impact your plans, your timeline?
It's definitely something to weigh up, isn't it? Balancing that potential for a smoother, less bureaucratic path against your own specific situation, budget, and preferences.
Absolutely. We definitely encourage you to dig into the source materials yourself if this sounds interesting. Do more research based on your specific nationalities and circumstances.
Yeah, consider this a starting point. I'll look into why Hong Kong might just be a surprisingly viable, efficient, and maybe even appealing option for international couples wanting a simpler way to tie the knot.